statutes, which make it more consistent with the I-1 zone. Then the next change, back on what happened on 18 and 20 of the old law, we had, I had left a placeholder for dimensional regulation changes for both residential and business and industrial. We did not have any change to the dimensional table, so I removed those. And in this place on number 19, I put a one lot R4. And that is land of now falling back to Taurus property, LLC. That is the property that is immediately at the end of Clinton Street, right at Bridge Street. That property is a law that doesn't exist. And it was approved and has a variance that runs from the land. So basically, this was over, these kind of uses from the region were already allowed under the variance. So we now have basically put it into the B2, so it's consistent. Street down from street and then street to Bridge Street. That's what's right there. And those are the changes we've made in the local law since the last meeting.
Now, these other, we need to continue the public hearing if you want to add these uses that I texted.
The board would have to say, okay, we want these changes to go into incorporated in the law, and we'll continue the public hearing to your next meeting. We will send revisions to the county planning, since county planning still has to review the use law. We have got nothing back from them, so we have to continue the process of, but we want to keep the public hearing open.
Okay, I'm going to read these uses. I texted them to the zoning committee today in the village board. And this is the uses that the town of Montgomery is looking to, if they acquire the property across from the brick house, or even if they don't, these are the uses that they want to basically have in that zone, which is somewhat of a compromise from large warehousing, and it's really not warehousing from what they're telling me. And they want to try to design it to blend in with the brick house museum. The uses are media/entertainment, professional/financial and business services, biotechnology/pharmaceutical/medical product manufacturing and assembly, agribusiness, new urbanism, that's live, work, play, and mixed-use communities, event center tourism, co-working space, environmental services and product development, technology-driven R&D manufacturing and assembly, data processing/storage, significant water needs, retail/restaurants and consumer goods. Now, I would like Walt and Kevin to give me one more time. I wanted to get these to you before your meeting that you just had, and talk about these and see if you want to incorporate all or most. I would hope most.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of them conflict with what the uses are, and it's going to make it more friendly uses, rather than trucking uses, for the most
Yeah,
part.
we can put that in with like the planned business park.
Yeah, I think that would be there's a good addition to the planned business park concept.
Okay.
I mean, there could, these were some of the specific uses we were looking for put in that
Right.
Yeah.
business park. So
Yeah, I saw it. The
think
contractor presented it to the legislature because the town is interested in that property. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but I saw this and I thought it was definitely
Yep.
well conceived. Okay, all right, public comments, who wants to go first? I'll change the order unless you want to go first.
I'll let somebody else go ahead.
Okay, Bruce or Darren, you want to speak? Okay.
Uh,
Try to come up, if you want to sit in that chair, Bruce, you can, because the speaker's right here, so you can move that paper over to the next chair.
Right.
Basically, we talked the last
Can you
meeting.
get a little bit closer, maybe that, Bruce,
Right here?
sorry.
We talked the last meeting about the proposed site down there on the east side of Railroad Avenue on the zoning changes. And you guys said you were going to maybe meet and come back with, the committee's going to come back and make some changes or what we had talked about that we didn't want. Has anything like that happened yet?
Well, they've met, but I don't think, they're not recommending any changes.
Other than the zoning change?
Other than changing it to a B2 zone with the desired uses that were presented.
Okay, and I guess.
In the R4.
What's that?
The R6.
R6, rather.
R6,
And that is a, what, that's a
1 and 2 family.
1 or 2 family. Now, that's just part of that area you want to change, right? There's another part, they want to go for apartments down at the other lot?
Yeah, I believe there's 12 apartments over
That's
business.
down at the north end, with the storefronts, and apartments up above, and then to the left of that, right at the corner of Railroad and Clinton, they're gonna dedicate that corner to the village parking. So we would inherit about 42 parking spaces.
Okay. My general concern is obviously the change in the zone. I've been against it since day one. You all know that, as you do. I think we can do a lot better things than just some housing and apartments in there. But I don't know if we can. I think you all mentioned that you did something down on Weaver Street not long ago. We got the committee together, trustees came down there, you all talked together in the spot. They were doing some development down there. I would like to see something happen like that before any major decisions made amongst the trustees. You know, fellow neighbors get together and see what's being proposed and see what everybody thinks about it before it gets put to the vote. I would like to see that. Is that something we can do?
I don't think that's going to happen.
That's not gonna happen.
We've discussed this, we've had, public comment period with questions and answers with the public. We've had 2 public hearings, and we're probably gonna have a 3rd on this. So, I don't think we are, because we've had you and Darren show up on
Why
that
wouldn't that
public
happen?
hearing. What's that?
Why wouldn't that happen? You did it with Donnie and.
Well, that's a big different story. right there.
It's
I
not though.
want
So that
Okay.
affects them and this affects
Okay.
us.
Let's
You know,
continue
it's
on.
you're not even like compromising though. You know, it's really unfortunate.
We really are compromising.
But you're not
Because
though.
there was a
You're not
proposal
talking to us.
Okay. Go ahead. Let's continue.
Well, I mean, I just find it odd that we can't sit down together with, some more neighbors and that and see, and talk about maybe some different ideas rather than being proposed. But you're telling me that that's not gonna happen.
I don't get it.
We've discussed it at length.
We haven't though. We discussed it for
We've
half
had
an
a
hour
public
a few
hearing.
weeks ago.
Darren. We've had a
Half
public
an hour a
hearing.
few weeks
Actually,
ago.
we went Q&A with you at the last meeting much more than we do during a public hearing.
You brought it up to me
A public
at the
hearing,
end- at the end of
Darren, a public hearing is for you to make public comments for 3 minutes.
Yep, and
It's
I
not
did.
Q&A back and forth.
I made public comment. I did not ask a question.
Okay, well, you'll have 3 more minutes to make more comments. I'm sorry.
It's just really unfortunate. Sorry, Bruce.
That's all right. I mean, we live across the street from one another. We live, he's 3rd generation in that house, and I've been there 33 years. And I'm just concerned about what's going to happen across the street from it. And what kind of element it's going to bring in. I mean, talking about building 2-family homes. Is it going to be rented? Does the owner going to have to live in one half of it? Go oversee the other half?
So they're going to be rental units. I guess it could be condos too.
So now it changes to condos.
That's what's allowed in the R6 zone, Darren.
And you said, no, it's going to be 2-family last time we talked.
Well, if it could still be a condo, it'll be 2 families.
So it just,
Okay. Explain, Kevin, I'm sorry.
So you can have control of the zoning, you don't have control over how the ownership is. In other words, if you have a single-family home that is rented out all the time, that happens all the time in the village. And so if you have a 2-family home, one to be occupied by the owner, the other to be occupied by a renter, or they both be occupied by a renter. This board does not have control over how the ownership of private property is conducted. It has right over the zoning. So if they put an R6 in 2-family, you can have 2-family, you can have 2 separate owners, each living on there in a duplex, or you could have one renting out or both renting out, just like you have a single-family home that can be rented out. Nothing stops an owner from buying a piece of property and renting it out, and this board does not have control over that. And again, we have many instances in the village where owners are not the people living in the house, they rent the house out. So, and I understand the concern.
No, I understand that. I thought there was one development being, at one time up on Chandler Lane that's being proposed, and the board said that the owner had to live in one half of the duplex.
That was if you wanted to do I believe that was if you had a home occupation or a home professional office. The owner's supposed to occupy it. In other words, you can't rent out the room or the part of the house for a business. He has to be in the house and own the business. Other business has to own. I guess we might go.
Home occupation. Basically, home occupation.
Correct. Or home office, correct. That has to be occupied by the owner. Yes.
Well, at this point now, how many houses are you proposing in that area?
Seven.
Seven
It was
duplexes.
9,
14
it was 9 on plans.
It was 8.
14 originally.
It was, no, well, it was, yeah, okay, it was 16. It was 8 units.
8 units, 16.
He agreed with Wall Knight to cut it back to 7 duplexes.
No, but
which is
even
14.
before that, their first proposal was to build the whole street, and I think we said there was a possibility of 12 homes that would fit in. So
Yeah,
that
but his original proposal way back when was like 55 or 60 units altogether.
And that was on both sides.
And that was on both sides, and that was crazy.
Well, my last question, you don't want more time here, but I don't see anybody jumping at the bid except Donnie, maybe, but he's still working on the camera. What stops the zoning change from down the road and saying, you know, we've changed our mind, we want to do something else as far as like, let's say we want to go 2-3 stories now. We've got our, well, let's say it's not going to happen, let's say that it can't happen. Is there,
Anything can happen, Bruce, but that's not gonna happen.
there's no safeguard to say like, you know,
Unless if the village board is crazy at the time, because that'll be well into the future, they're not gonna approve another 2 or 3 stories on these buildings. It's not gonna happen. And once they're built for 3 stories or 2 stories, that's it. They're not gonna
Maximum
do
height is
it.
not changing. Maximum height, we're not changing any of the dimensional regulations. So if whatever the R6 allows now, it's going to be what the R6 allows on the extension of the zone.
How far up does it go? Does it stop at the street?
It goes, I don't know, probably to the middle of I would say to the middle of the warehouse, the big warehouse. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes down to that building. Goes
The
down to
apartments are gonna be probably in the vicinity of, where the beauty salon is now, where Lindy Dress used to be. I would say they're in that area, and there's only gonna be 2, maximum 3 businesses below that, right?
It's almost down to the corner.
Well, on the corner would be the parking lot, 42 spaces.
well, you know my feeling on it. I mean, the houses, I guess I could, you know, it is what it is. But, I mean, apartments and stuff, 12 apartments. There's, you know, 24 cars doing right there on that street every day. You know, that increases the traffic, takes away that nice street that we all have lived around for a long time. And, the houses, you know, that could be doable.
Well, I'm certain he's gonna do them in a nice fashion.
Well, I'm not-
He's building
I'm not-
houses off of Pleasant Avenue, so.
I'm not saying that they're not going to look nice. I'm saying that you're increasing a lot of traffic down there that we haven't seen ever. You know, we've had traffic down there, but once 5 o'clock, bell rings, that's it. You know, dinner bell, store closed, lumberyard down, salon shut down, antique shop shut down, nice quiet street. It's the only thing I can run on right now. We got it. You know, it's a nice quiet
Well,
street.
I don't know that the hours of operation are gonna end at 5 o'clock at some of those businesses. You could have substantial business there after 5 o'clock.
No, I mean, I
You
guess.
could have a lot of truck traffic. Bruce, I beg to differ. I mean, I lived on that street all my life, except for the 17 years around the block. A lot of truck traffic here. Started at 5:30 in the morning, you know? I know you lived there 33 years, but next week it'll be 59 years I've lived there. So, a lot of trucks, early in the morning, you know? It did stop at 5 o'clock, I give you that, but that doesn't mean that these other businesses that come in aren't gonna go past 5 o'clock, which they're allowed to. I mean, we could regulate the hours of operation, but
No,
it's gonna be truck traffic or it's gonna be car traffic.
I just think that you're trying to, you know, fit a square peg in a round hole, and someone has property that they're tired of looking at and not making money on, and they're not thinking about the neighborhood and what's there. Think about what can I do to build something to start generating income. I get it. The owner bought the place as a lumberyard because he's in the lumberyard business, period. He got out of lumberyard business. He no longer needs the business for a lumberyard. And now it's idle property sitting there, and it's eaten away. That's what it is. There's so many things we do, but I'll fight and say no to the day I die, to the last day I stay in that house. You know, that's all I can do. I can speak for myself, I can speak for my neighbors, yeah. Only one neighbor's here. The United guys are kind of like the vocal guys. But, you know, it's the way we feel. So, you guys vote, but, you know, with your heart and conscience, but just remember, you know, I think we could do better. A lot better.
Thanks, Bruce. Okay, Darren, you wanna go into Don?
So, as I said, about a month ago when we were here, and just to comment on what Mr. Dowd said, he said it's out of your control, right? When what the owner wants to do with the property, but it is in your control to change zoning. Why is it being proposed? I know the committee's here and you know Mark's in the committee and propose these zoning changes, but why? Why do we need to change the zoning? Why do we got to throw a business, a B2 in the middle of a residential area? Is that okay? Is that something that we can do? It's
It's an I-2 right now.
yeah, I get it, but it's I2, but it's still, that's been there forever. Where you're changing it from an I2 on the corner, making it a B2. Is that, why do we gotta do that? We're gonna put more businesses in there and put other businesses out of business? You know, we talk about it. What if a pizza place goes in there? What if a salon goes in across the street from the other salon? Like I said the last time. It just doesn't make sense. Put a manufacturing in there. Put something in there that's gonna produce. Rich was here, or I can't think of his name. Rich's partner was here and said, you know, there was talk about putting a sports place in there. Put a soccer field inside the big building and put some fields on the outside. Let's do something, make a park. Let's do something that's good for the community. Yeah, it's only me and Bruce here. It's unfortunate that nobody else wants to join in and talk through this, but it's in your control to vote this in or not vote it in. So make an amendment to the 21 and 23, the zoning, and don't change them to R6 and B2. You know, and the whole compromise thing. See, come on. You know, you compromise with them and talk to them, and that was the trustee meeting before. We literally got the law that night to be able to read through it, and then we have public hearing. Got to talk about it for a minute, but there's no reaching out to the public saying, hey man, do you want to talk? You said you were going to talk to me personally. I didn't get a text or a call to talk about it. Isn't that something that we should do when we're a community and you're our leaders here and talk through the things that are happening in the community? I don't get it. Like you just give a hard no to Bruce about doing the talking. It's up to you guys. I don't vote for it. And the whole committee thing, well, it's on the committee proposing the zoning changes, and then he's going to vote for them. How is that okay? That's a conflict of interest. How is it not? How is it not?
He's the liaison to the committee, just like we have liaisons to all the other boards and everything else. It's not, he's only one member of the committee, and the committee as a whole recommended these changes.
Yep. But he's going to vote for them, yes or no, right?
He's a member of the board, that's what he
Yeah.
wanted to do, was vote.
But he had input on changing the zoning to B2 and
And when he was
R6.
on that committee, he would still have input as a elected member of this board to make changes to the law, to vote for the same law.
But in my opinion, it's whether it is or not, it's a conflict of interest. In my opinion, it's just unfortunate that these zoning changes that affect our little neighborhood in the village of Montgomery, where the old village, that we're going to be bringing in condos now. It was two family houses. It was 2 family houses, just like Steve's house at the end of the lot. It was going to be 8 of those, and now it's condos.
And it
No,
can't,
it's 7.
Well, it's 8 on the
two-family
it's
homes.
8 on the blueprint. So 7
In the
two-family
law,
homes.
it's 7.
But Steve said condo. So who's to say he's not going to change
he
it?
said it could be condos.
It could be condos, it could be individual.
Yeah, but
Stretching what I'm saying.
so it could be condos. So he could put condos in there. Great, right? He could, or he could put the two-family
The
house.
building would be identical.
No, I know. I understand.
The building would be identical, whether it's a condominium building or if it's a 2-family home. The building is exactly the
Yeah.
same.
It's
The
just-
ownership might be different. But again, the biggest concern that we had in looking at the zoning was in the middle of, really at the end of our downtown. Now, Railroad Avenue is the end of the village downtown.
Yep.
And legally, they could at any time put 3 40,000 square foot warehouses on that property, and we could not stop them with the current zoning. And again, they could have turned the whole property over to Butler, and Butler's got you know, probably a third of his trucks on that property now, he could put another 50 trucks on there, and you would have all day trucks coming in and out. We're talking heavy-duty trucks, you know what they are.
I know they're there.
right
I know they're there.
So again, we felt the zoning change that we made was in the best interest of all the village of Montgomery. I
I
don't disagree.
yeah, and that's fine. Everybody has their own opinion, and it's unfortunate, and it's unfortunate that nobody else wants to talk about it.
Can I just say something? I live on Main Street and, I'm on board, and you mentioned you don't want traffic, but do you realize what a sports complex will generate?
Okay.
So, what is it then? Is it no traffic? I don't understand, you just wanted to,
I wanted to say the same.
okay. And
So-
nice
so
things
put in-
don't
put
stay
in
the
300.
same. But I personally do not want a sports complex.
And that's your opinion, like we said.
Okay, so I'm one of 3 people from that area.
Mhm.
So I'm just saying.
I get it. I totally get it, and it's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, and I'm sorry, I'm very sorry.
So why don't we compromise? Why can't we talk about compromise? Why do we have to bring in more businesses, and why can't it just all be houses? Why does it got to be businesses, and we're going to put other businesses, and then 12 apartments, and then we have 7 houses, 14, actually 7, 14 houses, and then all the cars, 28 cars, and then 24 cars potentially for the
Well, I
apartments.
think it is a compromise, Sharon. I mean, this is the
A
proposal.
compromise from what?
This is a proposal that came up years ago, extending the B2 to that area.
It has been.
It has been.
And-
And I think the compromise is blending the R6 with duplexes where there is existing residential area. Those residents have lived in an industrial zone for years, and a lot of people don't like that. When Rivenburg and Rowley rented to that steel fabricating company, there were neighbors around complaining about the forklifts, and I called Brian, and he took care of it. He didn't have to. I mean, they're allowed to have forklifts with loud beeping reverse signals.
It's a business.
Yeah, so.
I
think
never
it
was
is a
complaining about it.
compromise there, but of course,
So,
thank you for your comments.
and it's just unfortunate that it's got to end this way.
Don, you've got more than 3 minutes.
All right.
Because you're probably the last comment, I think you have.
All right, so I we had that meeting, and I think that meeting went really, really well. I think we all came to a lot of agreement on that. So what I want to speak about is just clarifications. And the first thing that I've seen in on the industrial business park, you have the 70 feet setback,
Additional 7 feet.
an additional 70 feet, but the
400 or?
But that's where the mix of the numbers here, because we talked about 300 plus with the KSH.
Right,
setback.
we did.
All right?
We
So,
talked about 400. but-
400 total.
right. So now you have 70 feet on there, and this is where the clarification comes in. How do we put that in writing for that particular property if we're going to stand with the 300 or 400 feet setback? How is that going to be written into law?
Explain that, because I don't.
Well, I think what we're still waiting on is we have proposed to them of putting a conservation easement
Right.
behind Weaver. I have not seen anything in writing from Israel Friedman as to whether he's in favor of that or if there's going to be more discussion. But that's, our stance is for them to make that a conservation easement, and then the development to be on the south end above the ridge. So, I don't know if you heard anything from either.
No, I think Ross was waiting to draw up a proposal to take to the planning board, but, we have to change the zoning, but that's, I mean, we pretty much said that we weren't in favor of anything more than the 380,000 square foot warehouses.
Right.
And you can
that's
still
all
do his office
predicated-
building, I believe, on 211,
But
right?
it's all predicated on the conservation easement as well.
Well, we can.
But
knock
there's
that
no
out.
clarification in the local law that
No,
stated
the
that.
local law refers to I-1 zones in general.
I
as
get that,
opposed to
I
KSH
get that, but
specifically.
that particular property, we, at a at a village board meeting, and then we had the meeting out on the site, and that's, the language of the meeting was that. And I just want to make sure that a developer could come in and say, hey, listen, I don't care what you said in a meeting in Weaver Street, it says right here 70 feet. You get what my gist here?
Yeah.
All
How
right.
do he brings up a good
70
point. How
additional
does,
feet from what's required of the now.
Okay,
It's 70 additional feet from the setback that is already required in the law now.
I know that, Kevin.
Okay.
That's not what I'm referring to. I'm well aware of that setback. What we talked about at the meeting in Weaver Street was a 300-foot setback. If you had, you were, I don't believe you were there, all right, and Walt wasn't there. So,
The 300-foot setback is from the original site plan that was proposed by KSH. There was 300 feet from the back of the property.
No,
The
there
edge. Well, that's.
no, there wasn't. No, he had one of the buildings was right backed up on one of the properties, and it was
Not
50 feet.
warehouse, not.
That was the residential?
What's that?
Was that the residential?
That was the
That was the office
Oh,
building.
right, but
Which
the warehouse.
is on the 211 side, I think.
Um,
I don't think we care about the setbacks so much of the office building.
Well, no, that was the original plan. You're referring to the original plan, all right? So that original plan is gone. We're not even discussing it. I'm just getting at what we've discussed at the meetings here, and I'm just very concerned that a smart developer will say, Steve, and this happens all the time, if it's not in writing, it doesn't work. You
No,
know,
I
so
share
I'm
that
just
concern,
saying,
so the committee should ensure that that's in there that way,
right.
okay?
One of the things too, Kevin, isn't the I zones are still, warehouse is still a special exception use. Correct. So there's criteria in there that we've developed for warehouses, and we also, it's a special exception use. So we're saying add 70 feet to the 30, and you're aware of that, I understand that. But the latest site plan that the planning board had in front of it, there was 300 feet between the back of the property owners and the warehouses. And that took care of that whole easement we're talking about where it had all
They did with their
the,
proposal, but what ensures that on the opposite side of the road, the I-1 over there,
the opposite side.
the Aidenbrook
Aidenbrook,
property,
yes.
or Fitzpatrick's?
Right.
What ensures that that's not gonna happen over there with the buffer?
That would be 100 feet. That would be 100 feet from the property lines. If that becomes a warehouse, it would be another 70 feet on top of the 30 in that area. So like on the side of, like if you look at close to the PED that's there, there's 70 additional feet plus the 30 where the line would be. So it's 100 feet.
Well, we need to get it in the zoning change.
That 70 feet is in there. John's talking about 300 feet. That's just specific to the KSA project.
I think we're on the same page. I'm not so sure you understand exactly what I'm talking about. This is the diagram that was presented at Weaver Street. You know, you remember that? And these three buildings were on the south side of the berm that we always talk about, which is around 300 feet.
I think Mark had that drawing done up there.
Right,
Yeah.
right. This is the one Mark had up there.
Right.
All I'm asking for, what is going to ensure and protect the village that nothing is built? Say if he doesn't have the environmental easement. Say if he says no to that, what happens?
then we would say no to the rest of the development.
Right,
Again,
'cause it's
that's
special
all gonna be
exception.
subject to planning board.
All right,
approval.
but I just say
What we're
because-
saying right now is for him to get any kind of approval, there has to be that conservation easement, and it has to be minimum 300 feet from Beaver.
Okay, so
Well, we
just to
can't go
note
into
that
the
when
law.
I see 70 feet, and I think, again, me and you are on the same page in this, that if it's not clear in writing, whether it's in a local law or if it's in some sort of zoning rules that we have, whatever it is, let's just stick to what we had said. Let's not have 5 years down the road, they come in and just blow this all apart. You know what I mean?
Right.
A straight, make it a straw, I think.
Yeah.
Can't hear you guys.
That's all right. I mean, that's not what this says.
Right now, the transitional yard between an industrial I-1 and a residential is 50 feet. Under the local law, it makes it 120 feet minimum separation between industrial zone and residential zone.
We'll make it 100 feet.
120.
Can we make that more rated, we can make that more rated in the local law, can we not?
You can make an additional.
Make it additional. Make it 200 feet.
200 feet. Why?
Make it 200 feet, and you know with KSH that they're,
The problem is, if you start making it too much, and depending on which property you're talking about all I-1 properties, not just KSH now. You gotta think take into consideration the system involved the Hefty Farm, it involves the Gated Farm, anything that's I-1, if you increase it, what you're gonna end up doing is you can actually make it almost, some places, undevelopable, if you make that setback too much further.
Well, with the
And
Hefner
then
Farm, it's
you
already,
have what they call a taking of the property by legislation, and then you're gonna have a real problem.
well, the Hefner Farm is only, the Hefner Farm is 22 acres in the village, right?
Right now.
Right now, unless we annex.
So think about if you had sometime have another, having the farm was within, close to or touching what it does right now, a residential zone, then if you took it 120 feet back from the residential zone, what does that do to the 22 acres? And if you make it 200 or 250 feet back, what does it do to that? You're taking a substantial amount of their property by a regulation that you better have some justification for, otherwise you're gonna end up in a major lawsuit.
So basically what you're saying, Walt, I believe you said this in 1910, is a special use permit. So on this particular property, we are not gonna allow any build out on the north side of that berm. You're not gonna approve anything like that. My fears are down the road, if Kevin's not the chairperson on the planning board, the new chair, whoever that might be, may not be aware of these things. I just think.
Well, it'll be on the sign map, will it not? It'll have to be on the sign map that they're not allowed to encroach on that.
There are special conditions for a use of a warehouse in the I-1 that exists now. You're adding additional buffers, okay, from residential. I'm not bickering with that. But now you're turning around saying, well, we're not going to approve KSH's property unless there's a 300-foot separation. You don't have the right to do that.
Well, no, I'm not.
Unless you have an awful good justification why that needs a 300, and if it's just because you don't want to be near the neighbors, you're not gonna, that's gonna be a major problem.
Right, but after walking the property, the vegetation is down there, it's all wetlands, it's delineated, it's wetlands.
Yeah,
That's why we're 300 feet away from the back of the property, because it's natural vegetation down there, and it's a wetland. That's why you'll see that on the plan that you have, Don, that those buildings are set back 300 feet from the property line.
There's
Kevin,
also language.
I'm not arguing that. I agree
You
with
want it
that.
to be in
I mean,
there.
I'm well aware of this. I've been discussing this for 2 years with you guys. All right, I'm well aware of that stuff. All I'm concerned about is solid language.
So there's language in the local law that talks about steep slopes.
The steep slope, right. Right.
And streams near the Wallkill River and streams.
Mhm.
That berm that you're talking about, I'm not 100% sure, but I'd be willing to bet that it's more than 20% of steep slope, which the local law does provide that you can't build on there. So the lower part of that is all wetlands, and then you come to that berm, which would be considered the steep slope. Any of the proposed buildings would have to be beyond that.
Again, you know I'm aware of that. And I don't know why anyone here would not want to strengthen the language. That blows my mind that you don't want to
Because we
strengthen the
can't
language.
make a zoning law for one particular property to just say, you know, this I-1 is gonna be different than this I-1. That's the part that we can't do. Again, we can do it through the planning board and through
Site-specific problems.
Site-specific problems.
And the planning board can make the applicant plant trees and add additional buffer or mulch or whatever to hide visibility of the property.
Right, so that's my next thing I want to bring up. We had talked about that, and again, with the building design and landscaping is very important to me, and I know it's very important to you. We've discussed it, and I think moving forward, I had suggested at the not the previous one, the last meeting that I was at, that we have landscape design consultants and architectural consultants. What I'm worried about in this local law, as I read the new one that I just got today, is that you're kind of leaving it in the hands of the planning board. And that's great, but I think, and I hope, that the village would want to have that in place, that it's not whether we should or shouldn't, it's part of the local law we have to have on perhaps I-1, I-2, B-1, B-2, all right? That we have those in place, that somehow a mistake isn't made like Dunn Road, all right? We don't want that to happen. Me and you discussed that, all right? But things like that and the language of law creates what happened in Dunn Road. And we don't want that. And we have the ability right now, through this moratorium that we have, to strengthen these things and make sure those things don't happen. So, you know, an architectural review or a landscape consultant, I think you could be part of the local law, and we just move forward. I mean, particularly down on Railroad Avenue, I think those guys would want to have that down there.
Well, again, don't forget, this is a local law, that there's others that could follow, including stringent design guidelines as well. But I think we need some expertise in deciding, working with this board, as to what this board wants to see as far as design guidelines, whether it be I-1, I-2, B-1, B-2.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think the board's ready to do that. They don't have that consultant on board to make those design guidelines. But that should not necessarily stop this local law, because the moratorium's going to expire.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes
Yeah.
you want it to keep going, but it's already been a year, pretty much 11 months.
That's going to be my third point, don't worry.
But nevertheless, you want to get this in place. It controls much better than we have now, and as far as warehousing and special conditions and all that good stuff, and setbacks and additional buffers. And then if the board decides to go that way, they can certainly do that and get a design guideline in place.
We'll certainly authorize a design consultant, and definitely an outside inspector.
And
to
the
the
planning
building.
board can hire that at the expense of every applicant to now come up with a design guideline, or a design that they find acceptable to the village of Montgomery.
Again, I'm agreeing with what you're saying. I just, with what the subcommittee has done, or what they're attempting to do here with changing zoning and land use and things like that, it would, I think, be beneficial to the village that they have that type of thing in place to strengthen whatever is decided to go in there.
Okay, I understand your point, but then you're going to be delaying this adoption. If you delay the adoption, then you're going to have KSH back before the flood with the existing law in place. I don't know if you want that or not.
Okay, so
We can always do that. Let's bring this to a conclusion, because we've got about 15 minutes
right.
now. And
So the
those
reason
two gentlemen were on 10 minutes.
I got
It's
you.
supposed to be 3. So,
I got you.
you know, we're giving them 5 to.
I want to bring it up because this is the first time officially in an official meeting I can bring it up, because it was done in Weaver Street, not really documented. So that's why I want to bring this all.
No, and when you guys reconvene, at least discuss what guidelines you can put in there, and discussing hiring a landscape architect. And I think this board will certainly be amenable to authorizing
Building design, too.
building.
Yeah.
I mean,
We've been wanting that for a
yeah,
while.
architectural depictions and the whole 9 yards. So.
Desperately.
And we'll even have joint meetings with you, the village board will too, because I'm concerned about this as well. And, so, all right, now the moratorium-
Just in closing, I'm glad you moved
probably not gonna
PDD
extend
up
the
to three years. The moratorium ends in August?
Ends in the end of June.
Ends in June? You didn't extend it? Or that was the
We
extension?
extended it to the June to.
Okay, that was the extension? It doesn't matter what I have to say.
No, I mean, if we don't, we're gonna,
So my point to-
if we don't have everything completed by the next meeting, we might have to extend it a little bit longer, so.
The one thing I've stressed at a lot of meetings, Kevin, about moratorium, is that you have 5, 6, 7, 8 different changes here. You could adopt 90% of the changes, and let's just say these guys over here in Railroad Avenue, and I have sympathized with you. I think you guys should be able to meet. And extending just that section of it, I don't understand why it would be the big deal to accommodate them. I don't see why it would hurt to have a meeting for these guys, as long as you get your people there.
All right,
Because,
let's go back to focus.
15
but I
minutes.
think, my point is that moratorium law, as you have it right now on our moratorium, is a full-blown out moratorium. It doesn't have to stay that way. You could specifically say in the B1, B2, we're going to continue the moratorium.
Thank you.
All right, Kev?
Okay, motion to, I guess we'll continue it till the next meeting. Let's say 7:15. Probably either the next meeting or the first meeting in July. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to continue at the next meeting with the public hearing at 7:15.
And that's going to be, Steve, we changed the date for last meeting, right?
June 22nd, I'm sorry.
7:15?
7:15.
I'll make that.
You can do
At the senior center? Yes.
Get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, please all rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You gentlemen want to move up to the front so we can hear you, because the microphone is up here. We'll get to you in 1 second. A couple minutes, rather. Okay, motion to approve the minutes of May 18th.
I'll make it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, I guess you're up. Who wants to go? Mike, Michael, or Todd? Where do we want to start?
I'm Todd Zwigard, architect for City Winery.
Fine, Dan, for the city winery.
Okay, where do we want to start, Kevin?
Well, I think
The
that-
CO for the,
I think there has been a number of stop work orders that have been issued to City Winery for a wide variety of issues that have been brought to the attention of the building inspector and to the board. These situations seem to be in direct violation and contravention of the resolution that this board adopted when it adopted the PDD and established the regulations for what can go on and how it can go on at the City Winery site. There's also a site plan that was approved by the planning board, which appears to have been, I guess, ignored, or at least there seems to have been a development of additional improvements that are not on the site plan and require a site plan amendment. So the building inspector, rather than bringing this before the village court by serving them with a notice of violation subject to penalties, he requested and demanded, I suppose, that they come here tonight and try to explain to the village board why they are not in compliance with their resolution that was adopted back in 2019, fully negotiated with them, and there between council as well, and there are just so many numerous, I don't know where to really start as to the varying different problems we've had with what they are trying to do and what they are advertising to do, including concerts on hours that are not approved, Airbnb for the bridal suites, building a very large platform that is not on the site plan, that was not approved by anyone, without building permits, without inspections, without electrical inspections, and we can go on and on. Apparently doing something with the septic system without any engineered plans, without any approvals from the health department or DEC. There may have even been cutting of trees after March 1st when they're not supposed to be doing that because of the Indiana bat and the long-eared bat, northern bat, what they call it. It just goes on, and I think that this company and its representatives need to give an explanation as to why all this activity has been going on in contravention to their approvals.
Well, we received 2 stop work orders from the building inspector. The first one is in regards specifically to the times for the advertised concerts. And I think maybe Michael wants to speak to that.
Well, it's an easy explanation. We remembered a 3-hour afternoon window on Saturdays and Sundays, and we promoted it as a 2-hour window on Saturdays and Sundays, but we missed the hours. We have switched it back to the original approved hours.
1 to 4.
From 2 to 4 is when the concerts will take place.
The PDD listed as 1:30 to
Right. But
1 o'clock.
you'll be happy to know we're doing it even less than what was allowed. When we started the promotion, it was a harmless mistake. We thought 4 to 6 was very similar to 1:30 to 4, a little better for summer evening, early afternoon concert. So it was a mistake. When we got the notice, which was the first reminder, and the first time we've even looked at that, the PPD, we switched it to 2 to 4 so that we could be in compliance.
Actually, I see it says 1 to 4 here on mine.
It says 1 to 4.
Yeah,
One
that was
is
the
1 to
original
4.
approval.
And Michael, I remember this distinctly because you were upstairs in the courtroom when we were having a village board meeting, and you asked for those specific times.
Yeah.
And you sold everybody on that. And we would have even been amenable to late, a little bit later times, but you said that, you know.
At the time in 2019,
Yeah.
1 to 4 sounded great. When we started programming the shows, 4 to 6 seemed to come out better. It was a harmless mistake.
Well, as long as you're compliant, then that makes
We're
that a little
complying,
easier.
we're trying to be a good community member, putting on some nice culture for the town.
Yeah, we never had a problem with the 1 to 4. We would have even been more amenable to,
Sure.
you said to come back to change, but it's,
Sure, no,
when
no,
we
so-
see,
so we're
when we
doing
see
all
this,
this, yeah.
and, you know.
Very sorry
And we
about
want-
the mistake.
You did do well down there. You did a beautiful job with the facility, but, okay, so that addresses that. I guess, is the board okay with that?
Yeah, that's
As long as they stick to the 1 to 4? All right, so let's
Again,
not,
At some point,
let's not belabor
It's
that.
Saturday, Sunday, national holidays. So like when we saw this, it says Thursday, it says Friday, it says Monday, Tuesday. There's all different days here that you are promoting live entertainment, apparently.
It doesn't, it's only Saturdays and Sundays.
Well, this one says May 28th, Friday, CWTV live stream.
That's New York
That's
City.
That's
broadcast.
broadcast.
That's a live
That's
stream.
Yeah, that's.
There's no live sound
Where's
recording.
it shown? Where's it
There's no
shown?
restriction
Outdoors
for
or indoors?
Webcasting, is there?
Sorry?
On the internet from New
Is
York
it shown
City?
indoors or
It's shown
outdoors?
in people's living rooms.
It's
It's
not
being,
on the site.
it's being
It's not-
broadcast from New York City
Right,
to people's home computer.
Yeah, it's not on your premises.
No.
Okay.
Okay, no,
Okay, good.
we didn't know if you were gonna stream it to your facility
No, no,
here
no.
and on a big screen. We didn't have any idea, but, you know, when we saw the different days, we were a little bit concerned
I
about
understand
that.
that's a misread.
Okay.
All right, let's go to the,
For the bridal suite, and was there ever a CO given for running the bridal suite as an
I'm gonna speak
Airbnb?
to all the building work. Chaim and Bruce have had a great working relationship, so he's had all the exchanges.
But Bruce wasn't aware of the sewage situation that you were, Bruce, what was it that you found?
There, well, again, Chaim can speak to it, but there was an existing septic and it got clogged and we tried to unclog it.
The original site plan permitted the reuse of the existing septic. The original septic that had been installed is in place and is in use. We found that we were having a problem with it, so we had a city winery employee and contractor go in to try and dig up a portion of the leach field to see if something was clogged. It also suggested that something might be clogged. So they went in and they tried to dig it up. They found that it looked like everything was in order, and basically that's where we are now.
the leach fields aren't out in the village.
But my understanding is that Jeff had
Grandfather?
one toilet or one sink in that building, and how many
Right now, we have.
facilities do you have in that building that are
Three
going to leach
toilets
into that
and
field?
3 sinks.
Pardon?
3 toilets and 3 sinks and 3 bedrooms.
Right, so that was issued as C of O for a bridal suite and approved on the site plan as a bridal suite. And then my understanding from Kristen O'Donnell from the village engineer's office, not an engineer, however, but my understanding from the village engineer's office is that because it was approved as a bridal suite, the septic field was approved because it was existing and it was believed to be satisfactory for use as a bridal suite, which is to say that there was no overnight accommodations there. It was for use as a bride to get ready and to accommodate whatever needs she had during the day. When this is being used as for overnight accommodations or multiple units, then the septic field that is there, that again is intended for this very minimal use, is being overused, and as you may imagine, that's where the failure or the problems occurred.
Right, because again, my understanding is that it's been available as an Airbnb since October, September.
There's been a pandemic, and we built a bridal suite, which is not just for daytime use. It was always intended and built for, and the design, which was approved, was for the brides to be able to stay overnight during their wedding. We haven't been able to have any weddings. We're trying to pay our bills, and we're using it for overnight stay. There's nothing that prohibits us from having overnight stay. The
again,
issue is on the septic, right?
This was never discussed about Airbnbs. It was never discussed, okay? And if you wanted to do this kind of stuff, what we're saying to you is, this board is willing to listen to your requests, but you just can't do what you want to do without coming back to the board when it's in violation of the resolution. And that's what this is all about right now. A lot of this was done without the board having any knowledge of this. And apparently also with we started digging around the septic field and either trying to improve it or whatever you were trying to do to it, it requires usually engineering plans, it requires approvals from the health department. If it's failing because there's too many units there, you're going to have a major problem, and it's going to really hurt your property if you have smell of sewage because the septic system doesn't work because there's too many units. So in a way, it's for your own protection that you went through the process, and you haven't done that, and that is what is causing some of the problems, Michael. What? You're shaking your head. I mean, where in this process did you say that you had the right to do an Airbnb there?
Before the pandemic.
The pandemic is immaterial.
I know it is too.
No, it's immaterial from a zoning point of view. I understand the economics of it. Everybody was hurt by the pandemic. I'm sure you were definitely hurt by the pandemic. But that doesn't mean that you can just go out and rent out a bridal suite as an Airbnb. Especially when I think, did it have a CO? It doesn't even have a certificate of occupancy, even as a bridal suite.
Well, it's had the inspection for the CBO. But the CBO hasn't been issued yet, as I said, until we resolve the septic.
So what does that mean? If you don't have a certificate of occupancy, you cannot occupy the building. And you have been.
It sounds like they're gonna have to hook into the village sewage system.
If it's inadequate, yes. Right now, the way it works in the village is there's very few septic systems allowed in the village, but once you have to, if it's not gonna work, you have to get into the sewer system. That's state law. That's not even our law, but you have to get into the sewer system.
And who determines that?
Well, again, if they have a failing septic system, they can't enlarge it, without going through the process, but you have to basically approve an enlargement, and basically, if you're going to modify it, you have to go through the state health department regulations, and you have to connect to the sewer system. The sewer's available, they have to get it there. Gravity flow or pumping it, whatever they have to do, they can get it there.
And how far away from our intake for sewage is that? Is this where the boutique hotel was? I remember that.
The boutique is the existing building further down, but this is the barn up at the top. It would require a lot of work at this point to tie into the city.
Yeah, we'd have to replace the existing septic tank with a sewage injection pit. We'd likely have to bring three-phase power to the barn to power a three-phase grinder pump. We would need to trench to the village sewer, and we would need to cut up the asphalt.
We don't have any more money to do that, nor do we have any more time.
But do you really want to have a situation where you have a septic system that doesn't work, and you have sewage
We'd like
flowing
to
out?
clean the septic, please.
Sorry?
We'd like to clean out the septic, find where it's blocked, put the dirt back over the leach field.
Bruce?
I also think that the CO issue is a big one, just from your standpoint, that if something catastrophic were to happen there, and it's found that you didn't have a certificate of occupancy for the building, I would think your legal.
We would love to have the CO issued. It was inspected and approved with the septic being the outstanding issue.
Right now, it's, Langton Tully was over there to, figure out what was going on. And then Chris Hines did tell me what was going on after. And with the engineering, it's gonna have to be engineered. It just can't be added on. You can't do that. So it's gotta be engineered. It has to be. Anything that's gotta be added. But first, anything that's wrong with it, I'd like to see what's wrong with it. have
Mark
Mike
and
Ford,
Health
or,
there, what's
yeah,
that? It's gonna be a different issue, right?
yeah, and then have Mike Ford go over with me. And then-
So it's kind of a change of use, the way Kristen just explained. It's, minimal use to Airbnb.
Yeah, it's multiple units, and it was supposed to be one, and that,
Well, I'm confused by it because the drawings that we had submitted to the planning board always showed this space exactly as we built it. We haven't, there's been no sleight of hand to it at all. We showed 3 units, a double wide unit upstairs, and 2 single units downstairs, each with its own bathroom. So nothing has changed from the plans that were approved, and that's why this comes as a shock to me.
And those original plans showed that going into a leaching field?
Yes.
It goes in, it just says reuse of existing septic.
We haven't changed a thing since 2019. The only thing, we haven't been able to do weddings, right? And because of that, we don't have brides in there. And so we're trying to use this beautiful, fully inspected, safe edifice and try and make a couple of dollars. That's all we've tried to do. As soon as we can start doing weddings, we are gonna put brides in there. We can't wait. They pay a lot more.
Why, we have plans, we have a copy of the plans too. I don't know what was exactly close to that area, but it was definitely not an Airbnb or any lengthy rental time frame. I don't know what your time frame is on an Airbnb.
It's gonna be campus.
Yeah.
It's the same as a bride would say, it could be wedding.
And Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but if he operates an Airbnb without a CO, right, and our village knows about that, and lets that continue, doesn't that put the village on hook for any kind of problems he might have?
I think that the village can't look the other way when there are clearly violations on the property. You don't have a CO. I don't know what the situation is, why the CO wasn't issued, but certainly you've occupied it before you got the CO. I will say this, that the approval resolution says that the lodging would be year-round, overnight accommodations, limited to a maximum of 16 rooms in only 2 buildings, and it says bridal suite and hotel. Okay, that's what was approved by this board, and that's what they are allowed to do. But again, the whole idea was they were gonna have weddings, this is gonna be the bridal suite, clearly gonna be overnight, and there's gonna be a hotel for, I forget how many units, how many actual.
13 rooms in the hotel.
Right, that were
and
going to be,
3 in the
that were going to
bridal
be used for the guests from the weddings, that they could come and they didn't have to travel if they were drinking all night and that kind of stuff. So that was the concept that was approved by this board. So overnight is allowed, okay, but not B&B. And you may want to bicker about that, but that's not what was approved.
Well, I don't intend to bicker, but, in my understanding and my familiarity with the project, I've been working with the company 3 years. The first month that I was with the company, I came up and saw the property and saw the barn. And my understanding from day one, working with Todd, working with Ross at DNC, was that the expectation was that this was going to be a space that would be rented to visitors to the facility. And we had spoken with the Orange County Department of Health representative who inspects our facility and gave us our authorization for our kitchen, for our restaurant, for our bar. It was only came through another time recently, about 6 weeks ago. We did speak about the barn, and she told me, I forgot her name now, but I could look it up. She told me that it would only require a permit, and I recognize now this might be a health permit, if it has 10 or more occupants. And I think our bed layout, I know, has fewer than that. So I didn't recognize that it was going to require any special permissions or any additional applications for that. And, we're in a position now where City Winery is struggling and we need revenue. And, for us to take 2 steps back now to submit those applications is really going to be a hardship. And, had I understood that was required, I would have done it day one, just like I did.
Well, you've been working with them for 3 years. Do you have the resolution?
I have this thing practically memorized, but nowhere in here does it say you can't have a facility that's approved for overnight stay as a hotel, not be used for paid people to stay. I never would have thought it was only for free guests or something.
All you had to do was ask. All you had to do was call that gentleman right here in the blue shirt, Bruce, and ask him.
Right, I could have. I could have.
You
I
could have,
accept
and you
that.
should have, and you didn't.
I should have, and I
That's
didn't.
why
And at the
you're
same
here.
time, I've worked for a company that is stretched thin nationally, and is trying to overcome the, extreme impact of the pandemic. And I'm in the village of Montgomery one day every 2 weeks. And I'm trying to do what's right here. I'm not trying to deceive anybody. I call Bruce anytime I think there's something that I need to check in with him. And I simply overlooked this. So, what I'm looking for is a solution that can allow us to proceed. And, if an engineering study is required on how to either use the leach field and septic or replace it with something new, then so be it. Let's do that. But I'm hoping for a solution here that doesn't cost us the meager revenue that we are bringing in now. Because honestly, the jobs of a lot of people depends on us keeping the doors open in this place.
So it sounds like, I think that what you're saying is you probably have the information because you're familiar with it, you were looking at the septic, you were evaluating it yourself. So I think that's probably what the best course of action would be is to prepare that in a document, what you have now,
Yeah.
what the load is, the number of units, the number of guests that you anticipate there,
Yeah.
and then health department standards, you can do the math out and look at the size that you should have, and submit that to the building inspector's office and to our office, and we can review that and say, yes, this is appropriately sized, and you've done an evaluation on it. If you believe it's a clog or you believe that that's the problem, then I would just put that in there and just say that. And I think between our offices, we can decide, yes, it's appropriately sized, let's move forward, clean it out, and there must have been some type of defect or problem with that, or no, it's not appropriately sized, what do we need to get in there, and is that the best course of action? And let's just move forward. And if there's a permit, then my office will tell you that too, if you're required. My office will do all that, and we can turn that around much faster than the county. No offense.
No, that's 100% true.
My office can turn it around much quicker than the county, especially because, this is something that we totally appreciate, that we have plenty of applicants that want to get moving, and all of them in your industry, so absolutely, submit that to us and we'll get that turned around.
So Chaim, I would suggest you do that right away.
Okay, sure.
And let's get an update within a
Does that
couple
sound
of
good?
weeks. Let's see what the status is.
So
Nobody's trying to hurt anybody here, we just need the
there's
proper
no
approvals.
certificate of occupancy, it should not be occupied until the septic system is resolved.
The village does have an application process to operate an Airbnb. Okay, we have the application at the village hall, we can stop in, get that application to run an Airbnb,
Okay.
an annual inspection, regular fee.
All right, you know what to do with that. Let's move on to the deck, right? The deck seems to be a major bone of contention.
Again, when the planning board and the village board approved the plan, there was the drawing shows a I guess it was sort of like a stage, I guess it was called, for where you were going to do your live performances. Based upon a complaint that we received, or that Bruce received, there's now some other structure being built in a different location, much larger than what was showing on the plans. And that's what started the investigation, and we would like to know what that's all about. And again, it's a change to the site plan. It should have come back to the planning board for a site plan amendment, and it certainly should have been constructed with a properly issued building permit with inspections and everything like that, and apparently none of that was done.
Let me explain it and I'll hand it over to my colleague. As you know, there's been a pandemic and a big backlog of events and parties that would like to eventually use our space, anticipating come July, August, given the demand, we're going to have needs to be putting on multiple events, and most people want to be outdoors. So we engaged a tent company to come and look on our property where we have dry occupancy and available space, and there's a finger right in that spot where there's now the wood platform, and that's where we plan to put a deck. The tent. In talking to the tent company, they told me they're going to put in a temporary floor underneath the tent. And I tried to understand it and what needed to go below, and they wanted to rip out the grass and then put in some gravel, all of which we don't need a building permit to put up a temporary tent. And
Who says so?
the tent company,
What?
they have a.
Wait, Michael, again, the tent company doesn't control the zoning law and the laws of the village of Montgomery.
Okay.
Really, I mean, I
So-
cannot
No,
believe that.
Kevin, in his defense on that,
But,
we don't really require unless it's a heated tent with
This is not heated.
But
This is a
any
summer
tent
tent.
do you
Any
usually
tent-
require a building permit for a tent?
For a tent
When
that's
somebody
not.
puts a tent up in their backyard for a
No, not in
graduation party,
the
you don't require
backyard, but for anything public or anything with a business, it requires a building permit and it has to be fire rated.
So the tent
It has to be
company
inspected.
said that they take care of all of that. They do, it's a Hudson Valley, they do this every weekend all over the valley, and they take care of the permitting, they take care of everything.
they didn't do it.
That's because we haven't put the tent up. I then said to them, what if we made a permanent wood floor for you to put the temporary tent up? And they said, sure, that would be fine. So then I go to Chaim and say, can you put a wood floor on the
So
grass?
at that point, it becomes Heinz's responsibility to get the building permit.
No, at that
Yes.
point, perhaps.
Yeah.
And look, we apologize about not following the process.
And so,
We feel that we should have done that. We were rushing to put a 10th floor down. Chaim and Todd, who are much more professional than I am, designed a better 10th floor. It's not a platform, it's not a structure, but it is a quality floor with footings in an area that is a occupiable and legal outdoor space that we've got approved.
It is close to the river though.
So
Kristen just showed us pictures of it earlier.
it is close to the river. It's within the arable land that was designated as not wetlands by the Army Corps of Engineers in our original site plan approval. So that's why we targeted that area. We didn't want to put a tent in the parking lot because we can't sell
We need
a
the
wedding
parking.
in the parking lot, and we need the parking lot. And so we looked at our property, like Michael said, we found this location, we brought in the tent company. They proposed a dance floor. We raised the concern that this is going to be a tripping hazard. They said, okay, well, we can scrape it and put down gravel. We said, we don't want to take this grass area and put down gravel, so we came up with this idea of a permanent structure. Now, in regards to the building permit, I got a drawing from an architect. I met with the building inspector, got an application for a building permit, submitted the application with the location, with the dimensions, with the properties and materials that this was going to be built of. I then went ahead and paid the fee. I understood at that time that I could proceed. I had the contractor submit his insurance, his workers' comp, and his liability, which I provided to the village clerk. I then authorized the contractor to proceed. I didn't realize that the permit had not been issued. I misunderstood. I should have double-checked that, but I did not. And so I proceeded. I later learned that I needed historical and AHRB approval for this. I got the application from the village clerk's office for the AHRB approval, or a submittal. I put together the application, I submitted it. The clerk asked for additional information. I put together that information, I gave it into the office today. And I understand we're going to put on the agenda for the meeting 2 weeks from last night. So I just want to try and, it seems like there's this belief that City Winery is trying to get away with something. And my job is to not get away with something. I'm trying to follow the rules. I looked at the site plan.
Okay.
I saw an area. I didn't see anything, there is terminology, language in the PDD that says a structure that's built on site is going to require additional site plan approval. If it's a structure that's different from what was approved in the site plan. I saw this platform that Michael wanted to be, a flat floor, but wasn't going to be safe as plywood and dance floor on the floor. I did not see that as a structure. And Todd, I believe, he agrees with me that he doesn't consider it a structure that would have required.
Again,
site
the
plan
mistake
approval.
you're making is you're not asking. You're not asking, because if you had asked, you would have been told, first of all, under our code, it is a structure. Secondly, it requires a site plan amendment, because it's not on the original site plan, it has to go back to the planning board. and it does need building permits, and it needs to be properly inspected, and from what I understand from the building inspector, the footings are not proper.
I'd like to interject. Under your code, you just said under your code it is a structure. That's incorrect. I have the definition of a structure in your code right here. Would you like me to read it?
Sure, go ahead.
A structure is a walled and roofed building, including a gas or liquid storage tank that is principally above ground, as well as a manufactured home. That's the definition of a structure. I don't believe this is a structure. I'm pretty clear on that.
And when you consider the urgency of us being able to take 400 guests who ordinarily would have been in our, legitimately constructed and completed
All
beautiful
right, now
indoor space, and bring them
I'm
outdoors.
going to correct your architect, because the zoning code of the Village of Montgomery says structure, anything constructed or erected on or under the ground or upon another structure or building. I don't know what you're reading, but that's not the Village of Montgomery code.
Well, I'll,
Where's up from top?
Maybe it's the town of Montgomery, but it's not the Village of Montgomery.
Anything.
Anything that's constructed or erected on or under the ground or upon another structure or building.
So a
This is
tree
built right
house,
on the
a
ground.
model, a model plane, anything that is
chapter
constructed.
59. I was looking at chapter 59 under flood prevention because I was concerned about.
Flood prevention. Well, then you're reading the wrong section, because that's not what the zoning code says. And that's why you're in violation of zoning
That
code.
chapter has definitions. And according to that chapter, this is not a structure. Therefore, it does not have to comply.
Well, again, had someone asked, we would have directed you to the right section of the code, and you would have seen that it is a structure under the zoning code, and therefore requires approval from the building department, but also from the planning board. Again, these are all avoidable if you ask questions and you just didn't start whatever you were doing. I mean, this approval process for your PDD went through lightning fast. Everybody wanted you here. Everybody does a great plan. You did a wonderful job with the building. I've been in it. I've seen the grounds. It's great. But just because everything looks great and is great doesn't mean that you can just not comply with the laws of the Village of Montgomery. And that's what's been happening here. And Michael, I don't know if it's bad advice you're getting from people you're employing, but I'm just telling you,
No,
it's wrong.
It's not. I would say we have been under extreme pressure to move quickly to try and survive. And while you appear slightly empathetic about our business, we're in the gathering business that when we were here in 2019, we had no anticipation that for 15 months we would not be allowed to have people gather in a space right when we open. So, yeah, we are trying to survive. We put in $5 million more than the budget that when we sat in 2019 over in the hall, budgeted. We don't have that money. Okay, we anticipated people coming with big events a year ago. That hasn't happened. So if you would like to see City Winery here in a few months, we need a little bit of empathy for some, and look, we want a safe, great place. And we've proven that. Bruce absolutely knows we go over and above on the safety. We screwed up trying to clean up the poop, pardon the French, on the septic, I guess, because we thought it would work a little better. And we're in that mess. Let's hope we can fix it. We looked at the 10th floor and we eventually applied, but we obviously have a different interpretation of what a structure is. You seem to be a little bit overzealous right now on us complying with the law, and I'm sorry, it's to me demonstrating a little bit of lack of empathy given the situation we're in.
Look,
So let's try and resolve this, I hope amicably.
Sure, everyone can be empathetic because everyone suffered from the pandemic. You suffered more than others, I'm sure.
Much more than most.
But at the same point in time, just because of look, nobody caused the pandemic in this room, okay? It's affected everybody. That doesn't mean that because you have been hit by the pandemic, you can do what you've been doing, and that basically is going beyond your approvals, going beyond the realm of what you were allowed to do. And again, if you asked, maybe a lot of this, I think most of it would have been avoided.
You have a complaint as well about fallen trees that happened during the tornado. We cut those trees. We helped a bunch of our neighbors cut their trees. You know, we did nothing wrong. We didn't cut any trees to ruin any view. We actually were helping out the landscape and our neighbor's landscape. But yet it's a part of the stop work violation. There seems to be a little overzealous, you know, throw it all out.
Then that shouldn't be a problem. I mean, from November to March 31st, you're not supposed to cut trees. But if they were trees or trees that were blown down during the tornado, that's understandable. You have a right to cut them up. But Michael, I mean, the village boards plural, Department of Public Works, the building inspector, everybody's jumped through hoops to try to make. We knew this, and right from the beginning when you came to the village, we had the boards meet out at your site. We wanted this project to be a success, and it is a success. But you got to call the people and ask before you proceed with these things. Some of them are just common sense. You need permits for just about anything anymore. So that needs to be done. I mean, I like the idea.
I learned after the fact that you would need a permit to even repair the septic. I was totally unaware of that. So when Bruce raised that, called that to my attention when he was on site to take a look at the work that had already been done before the permit was issued on the outdoor platform, I immediately told the guys working on it to stop and that we needed to have it reviewed and assess the situation. Now, I want to reiterate, I'm not trying to get away with anything. Over the course of construction, 50,000 square feet indoors and 23 acres, we managed a project that complied with every letter and intent of the law of the resolution that was issued, and with the site plan that was approved.
Well,
so
let's not go there because that's not true. All right. But you need to get a hold of the building inspector. Bruce, what do I need for this? And if Bruce doesn't give you the whole answer, that's on us. But you really need to. Nobody wants to hurt City Winery. We want to see it be a success. It's a beautiful facility. We couldn't have imagined that it was going to be more beautiful than it is. But you have to comply with certain things, like Kevin said. And the other thing is the electrical that wasn't properly done. And that's probably the last issue, I think. I hope. But I mean, we're trying to throw you a rope here to help. I mean, I like the idea of the stage because it's going to be safer than gravel and some cheap plywood thrown on the ground. It's definitely going to, but it's really got to.
The only thing I've seen regarding electrical is it was included in the stop work order to not proceed with the electrical. I included in the application for permit for the outdoor stage. I just want to clarify. I submitted that application for permit weeks before I had a contractor on site who would be done any work on the outdoor platform. At that point, there was markers in the ground for where the platform was going to be. So, the application was submitted, and I was too quick in moving forward with construction before the permit was, after the fee was paid, after the application was submitted, before the permit was issued. So the only thing that I've seen regarding the electrical was the stop work order for the electrical that we were doing as part of that building permit application. And I discussed it with the electrician, and he has his New York State Special Electrical Inspector who's going to inspect the electrical. So I'm not aware of what the problem is with that.
What is the problem with your
I don't have any inspections on it. That's a problem.
Well, I
you
haven't.
only do the rough electrical, right? Or you don't, the electrical inspector doesn't.
Well, we both do the electrical inspections. I do them and the electrical inspector. We have to have a third party. Third party does it, then I go back and check everything after that. So it's done twice.
So we haven't had the third party special inspector come in yet because the work was stopped.
So where are we with the platform right now?
So the platform is framed, the decking is installed. The decking was removed in areas so that the building inspector would be able to see the framing, because I had neglected to call him and ask him to come out early enough. So the framing is complete and the decking is partial, the railing has yet to be built, the stairs have yet to be built. The electrical is the conduit that is laid and wires that are pulled, and it's taking them through.
There was also some question about the footings.
There's no sonotubes there? What is it?
I think that's just three. I think that's three with Todd.
So the footings are done in a way that pole barns have been built for hundreds of years. With some bags of cement, they're 4 feet down into the ground, and cement is put at the bottom of the hole, 2 bags in each hole, and the moisture in the ground sets up the concrete and it renders itself fully whole. The pressure treated post is set on top of that and it is backfilled. And that is the way it was done.
And I would concur with that. You might not concur. Listen, nobody built more pole buildings in this county than my father.
I'm not against it.
No. And that's, I dug a few of those holes, and that's a good footing. You don't need a sonotube for that. I mean, I'll concur with that.
Okay.
So it's gonna be solid. I mean, this is a pole barn right here.
I know.
My father didn't build this one, one of the few.
I inspected this now.
So I'll go along with Todd on that. As far as that, but what about railing? Do we need railing on that?
Railings have to be on.
Yeah, so the railings, it's shown, I believe, code compliant railing is shown on the drawing. We tend to build it that way. As I understand it,
Bruce and I discussed the railings, and Bruce had a very good suggestion, which I've incorporated in on the post support, and I sent it to you just today, but that is how it will be built. And I'll sign off. So yes, it's got egress, it's got handicap accessibility, it's got compliant rails.
Bruce, what else do we need on that besides?
Well, you need the guards, you're gonna have a ramp, and then of course you have the cupping on the lumber. You can't have any cupping, so there were some boards there that were cupped up, they would have to be turned around, with cuppings down, and indoor sanded some spots down.
I spoke with the carpenter about that, as soon as we're allowed to continue to work, you can remove any boards that were installed upside down, replace them with either with new or reuse if possible. And then if they still are inconsistencies, we'll sand the whole thing with the corner.
But at some point, is this gonna need to be part of the amended site plan? I mean, that can be put off a little bit longer, correct, or not?
Look, there shouldn't be a building permit issued without a site plan amendment. That's the way the law works.
And as far as getting back to the footings, now, as far as I'm concerned with the footings, the way I feel, but you're gonna sign off on it, Todd, you're gonna sign off on it?
Yeah.
You've got, if you have a pole barn, you have a pole barn, you got a perimeter, and it's down forces, and you got lateral and, whatever, and it's gonna be for storm. Now, if you take a deck that's 16 inches in one spot, 2 foot in another spot, 3 foot in another, whatever, and you've got, I don't know how big this tent's gonna be, but if you have 120, 150 people in there, and you have a lot of movement, you got dancing, now you got lateral movement going back and forth. So, to me, the footings are just as important as the bracing, you know what I mean? So, that's my opinion.
There's gotta be some kind of bracing for
That's what I mean.
There's no sway on that.
Yeah, I understand the down forces, but it's just, the lateral, that's where I'm more worried about that than anything. Even though you're gonna sign off on it, I won't give a CO unless I see the bracing going, that I'm gonna be satisfied that when I go to sleep at night, I'm not gonna get called out because somebody got a broken leg or whatever. And that
It's an
can
anchor.
slide over.
What's the decking? Is it 3/4 underlayment?
It's 5/4 by 6 deck.
Pressure treated.
Pressure treated.
Oh, it's a 5/4 by 6.
Pressure treated,
Treated?
yeah.
Well, they really should get on the agenda for the planning board to get an amended site plan, to include this and what else needs to be included. The Airbnb can be a separate permit, right?
The size of the stage,
The size of the stage.
yeah, it's significantly more.
Significantly larger than what?
Yeah, no, yeah.
The stage is, yeah, the
I'm
stage
talking about
is
the
is part of the site plan.
Before the CO was issued on the entire project initially.
When is your next meeting?
End of the month.
Kevin, when is your next meeting?
We meet every fourth Wednesday of the month.
And Bruce, you'll inspect that too? get the proper certification. Yeah, I mean, it's gotta have the angle bracing to it and everything that's gonna make it stable. As far as the down pressure, that's not gonna be a problem.
The application, just to let you know, needs to be submitted, 2 weeks before our meeting.
Yeah, I think 10 days, Chris, and it goes to Mike and Tully, I think 10, 14 days before the meeting, so you have to get it in by the deadline to give the engineers, proper time to look it over. Which sounds like you're gonna do before the meeting anyway, so.
We're trying to be reasonable here, and just gotta communicate.
That's fair.
Anything else from the board? Anything else need to be part of the site plan besides the deck?
I was asking Kristen, because I think when the engineers went out there, there might be an issue with that platform, they said it might be in the floodplain. I don't know if that's
It
true or
is
not,
pretty
but I'm not.
close. So you mentioned that it was an area where you believe it was in the wetlands itself, and it's not in the better banks of the local, but do you check on floodplain?
Yeah.
I mean, given it's not a habitable structure, it may not be a significant issue with where it is, but it may require a floodplain permit, which would be just from our building inspector.
Well, that's what I was referring to earlier, you're talking about your chapter 59.
Right, so a floodplain development permit, so you're suggesting that this is not a structure for flood, that would require a floodplain permit.
Clearly it's not.
So,
I read you the definition of the structure in chapter 59.
right, so that's, okay, so that's the distinction between the definition that you're reading and the definition that,
That's right.
attorney is reading, is that, so that would not be, you're saying it's not considered a structure for the purpose of floodplains. As long as there's no grading, which doesn't look like, I mean, for me only, I'm looking at photos, so it doesn't look to me like there was any grading. And it doesn't have a structure, then we may not need, a floodplain development permit. So that's, the difference is that permit versus zoning regulations, where the definition of a structure in the zoning chapter would apply to that. So, understandable. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Hey, Kevin, what are the hours of operation, what are the days of operation of this city line? I remember when the planning board met and PED states that Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays, are you open more than that? Except for the holidays, there's a holiday provision in there.
But that's just for concerts. The facility is open and able to be open 7 days a week.
Is that true? 7 days a week?
All right, let's see. Again, according to the resolution.
Well, we said we wanted you to.
Yeah.
I did.
I can't imagine this being open more than 7 days.
So we approved, I think, last days. No, we
I mean, if they're not, they should get that authorization at the site plan.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think that would be a big deal. But when they came, he was only gonna be open 3 or 4 days.
Which we were
And
surprised
We
at.
said, for the locals, we'd like you to be open more.
Exactly, and he said no.
And the answer was that if the demand is there, they will want to expand their time.
That's what we said.
And again, it came down to the fact that you were supposed to come back to this board and say, we'd like to expand to 4 days a week, 5 days a week, whatever they were
What does it
requesting.
say? I thought what we agreed to is they just put in for maximum days as a right.
That's not, well,
It was, but
again, if you look
I don't
at,
think it's gonna be a problem. Just make it part of the site plan amendment when it comes to you at the end of the month, right?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any, by increasing the days, the hours during the week, I don't know if there's traffic concerns or, these are all points that we make around the planning board. We look at all these things. These are the things we take the hard look at and look at. And I heard from people that said, like, well, why does the city want it open on Wednesday? Why are they open on Thursday? I don't think they have, authorization to do that, but again, I don't know.
so the resolution says, just so, again, restaurants, indoor cafes, tasting rooms, and retail. Hours of operation will be limited to hours within the following daily time period: 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., Saturday and Sundays year-round, and 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. on Fridays year-round. Other weekdays may be added from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. if there is local demand and prior village board approval.
So is that something that needs to be reviewed by the village board or the planning board?
To expand your hours has to come to this board so the resolution can change that authorizes it. Okay?
All right, so,
We have a meeting on the 22nd.
all right, so we would like to be open.
Put that request in, we'll address it on the 22nd, right? Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you wanna address that now or just.
Again, that's up to the board, but you really, I mean, again,
We're talking about it, let's
I
just
think
do
we
it.
just do it now.
Yeah.
Does it require a public hearing on all that? No.
Should be.
not for the resolution, no.
Okay, so what hours are you looking to expand to?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 till 11. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 11 to 11. What's
What it
that?
is on the,
No, it's,
Our
okay,
existing
right now
weekends?
it's, okay, right now it's, 11 to 11 Saturdays and Sundays year round, 4 to 11 on Fridays year round. Other weekdays may be added from 4 to 10. And I think that's probably because when you were having the public hearing on the local law, people were questioning, especially the neighbors, how late these activities was going to go on, and that's where the 4 to 10 came from. Then it says on the catering indoor events, banquets, and entertainment weekends year-round, from Fridays 4 to 11, Saturdays 11 to 11, Sundays 11 to 11, national holidays 11 to 11, and then New Year's Eve 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. New Year's Day. And then you went on to the outdoor music. So
I don't
that's
think that anyone
that's
has to
that's
say.
what that was what was approved. If they want modifications, they should make an application.
So
to
Monday
comply.
through Friday, you're looking to expand right now. And what hours?
From 4 to 10.
4 to 10, okay.
Monday through
That's
Friday.
what the-
Well, Monday through Thursday.
Monday through Thursday.
4 to 10. All right. Can you get a motion to approve those hours of operation?
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Thank you.
See how easy that was?
We're very empathetic.
Listen, we are the easy ones compared to the state. You know what the
But a
state
motion to do concert Saturday
No.
till midnight.
Now you're done.
Thursday, 4 to 10, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, what time?
11 to 11.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we're done? Gentlemen know what you have to do.
Yes. Thank you.
You will communicate. All right, abstract number 5 is 2021, motion to approve. Second. All in favor? Questions? All in favor? All right. Christian, you can go now, I think. You need to go right to
Planted in that chair.
get a hard drink, please, yeah.
You going to the city winery?
That wouldn't be a good time to ask Don's 10% discount.
Yeah. I take that back.
Okay, Chief, you have a report? No, I think we could, I'll entertain a motion to accept the resignation of police officer Jack Harp. Unfortunately, effective June 1st, he's taking a full-time job with Solid County Sheriff's Office. Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Officer Harp was with us for about 5.5 years. His full-time job is up in Sullivan County, and he's continuing on the possibility of promotion in the months, maybe years to come. Be greatly missed by the agency. He was a great asset to the department. Did a lot for us. Our website for the Village PD should be up shortly. We're finishing up on some content. We as supervisors started partially going through our EO 203 training. We attended some de-escalation training. We also searched for a less lethal option in addition to what we have now. We studied the bowler wrap, which is something that we could use as a less lethal option. While we went and checked on it, we also became instructors on it. So if we were able to bring it back to the village, depending on cost, it would be something that we could use.
So I don't need to talk to you about that gentleman I told you about then? The instructor?
For the bowler wrap?
Right? Yeah, that was, yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't need him now, right?
No, we don't need it.
Okay.
We're all good. We went to a supervisor update, which include the use of force updates, which we have already added to our use of force policy that we updated, as well as more of the de-escalation training. As part of our CIT training, at the end of June, we have at least one person that's already scheduled to attend the CIT training. I'm going to try and get two, depending upon what I can do with scheduling.
speed sign was at the post office. It was on board. We had it for about 9 days. I have an awesome package here that kind of describes everything, broken down into speed, 119, 20 through 21, 23, 24, how many cars and the volume will pass through. Nice little colored graph here that breaks down the amount of volume and the amount of speeds that pass through. Some more areas here, the total volume, the times of day when we see a lot of the traffic. And then I broke it down by each day. So we started on the 12th of May and we went to the 21st. This breaks it down by 15-minute increments per day, and it also totals each hour how many cars pass by. It also breaks down all the speeds, how many peak volumes we have, so we did that. That's a nice little packet. Then it also breaks down the traffic summary by the week, how many days between the hours of midnight and 11 p.m., what the volume is per hour, how many cars pass through. It's broken down by the week. Then we do it speed, how many speed ranges in between the hours as they pass by for each day. The posted speed limit in the area is 25, so we did see a couple of cars that were in some of that 35-40 area, which will look at the statistical data and give us the time frames, and we'll set up a successful enforcement detail. And then it just basically breaks down some more stuff. Selective time survey kind of gives us an idea of when selective enforcement would be beneficial to the agency. Nice little packet. We break it down for each one. Right now it's out on Goodwill right now in between Tompkins Roberts area. That's another 25-mile-an-hour speed zone. And next we're probably going to put it somewhere else. I'm going to tell you where it is yet. You'll find out. You'll find out as you pass by on it.
We'll find it.
So,
I know the speed limit.
oh no, I know. I do too. And I love going by, and you know, as I hit the turn, all of a sudden that bright light comes on and tells you exactly how fast you're going. It is kind of a deterrent. I have not, by the statistical data, seen anybody really trying to test its capabilities, so to say. I know I have it set out at a specific speed. It blocks out that it doesn't display on the display, but it will in the statistical data, so I know if somebody tries to go over a certain kind of speed limit where I have it blocked out. So next, it's probably going to go, we're looking at in between Sycamore, possibly Ward, because we know at a green light, 30-mile-an-hour speed zone, you know, coming down the hill, you're going to go faster than 30. So we kind of want to get an idea of what's going on traffic data-wise coming to the bridge.
You should put it on railroad too.
That was another. That was another concern. That was another concern.
I've heard some motorcycles lately.
We don't want it anywhere near water's edge.
Oh, no?
No,
All
keep
right.
it out of there.
I'll put the ghost one up. Oh, there's a ghost one. So there's one that doesn't display anything, that you don't even know it's there, and it gathers statistical data. So sometimes I want to have the speed sign that displays it, and then once you get comfortable, you think, all right, I'm past the speed sign. It's not, now we can go really what we want to go. So next I said it's either Ward or Bridge or Sycamore, I think, is where we're going to put the next one. Like I said, the one right now is on Goodwill by Roberts. It's been about there for 8 days today, so I'm probably going to pull it tomorrow and get the statistical data from that and put it in a package. Once the website's up and running, I mean, all these are going to be available in PDFs. I'll have them in color format. You'll be able to go onto the website. You'll be able to see the statistical data that we have here. You can download the PDF for your own viewing if you so wish. And then, like I said, a lot more information will go on the website to be available to the public for download. Questions or concerns?
Is that able to differentiate between cars and trucks on that data?
Not this one, no. This one just gives us the raw data, basically the times.
Do you have the ability
speeds.
to do that?
With the hidden one, yes.
Yeah?
Because it gives us the length of the cars. as they pass by.
Good, good. And I think, Kevin, for planning board issues and stuff like that, that'd be a great traffic
Actually, yeah,
study
that's what I
thing.
was thinking.
Yeah.
On railroad, I said, railroad,
Yeah.
go on railroad.
Yeah, that or
That'd be
like
a
I
great
said,
tool.
I'll put the radar one out there because that's really hidden. That might give us maybe, this with the speed sign, you see your speed, it kind of maybe like kicks you a little, be like, whoa, I didn't realize I was going that quick, I slowed down. But opposed to the hidden one that you don't know is there, it's not giving you any alerts, and we're getting really true raw data.
Anything else?
Yes,
Yes.
radar, everything great, police officers do more than that, obviously. Please explain what happened the other day where the police officers couldn't use deadly physical force.
Which one?
That would have been on Clinton Street.
Mike, I can't hear you.
You know, I can't hear you.
Yeah,
What happened on Clinton Street?
it was just an EDP. I mean, we have, like I said, the availability for the officers. They are trained, and we deal with situations like this, and we take into account things that happen. The bull wrap would be kind of, like I said, another avenue for us for less lethal. It's basically a device used to eliminate, properly deployed, of course, the hands being able to be used, the feet being able to be used. So instead of like a taser where you're shocking them, or a weapon or an impact weapon or a deadly physical force option, this kind of gives us one more option of less lethal that we can use to not have anybody get injured, which is our ultimate goal. So, with EDPs, are very, very unpredictable. So it's not like there's a specific set standard that you can go to where it's just going to flow. We go to the scene, we tell them to stop, they stop, and we move. So it's a totally unpredictable, unmeasurable situation that can go either way. It can go good, it can go bad. So we always pray that it goes well and nobody gets hurt. So
The police officers did an excellent job, and they got damaged to the uniforms, and I can relate to that. We do more than hand out, or they do more than hand out speeding tickets, and I appreciate it. So if this bowler wrap works, I'm forgetting it.
So we couldn't hear the original question. We couldn't hear the question, the original question to that. Couldn't hear it.
He just mentioned something about the EDP, emotionally disturbed person that we dealt with the
Oh.
other day.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
What is the bull wrap
What is
anyway?
it?
It wraps
What is
around somebody?
Yeah, so basically it's a device and it shoots
Like a lasso?
ish, so to
It's like a
say.
hot
Yeah.
tag?
So it shoots out a device. It's about 25 foot in length after it's deployed, and it basically wraps around the person and kind of immobilizes them for.
Doesn't suffocate them at all.
No. And they say the inertia is not enough. If you were to fire it at
Like
their
that
neck, it
man,
would
right?
wrap, but if the inertia from the device would not be enough to wrap it around their neck where it would cause suffocation or anything like that. And you can do multiple devices deployed at specific areas, so you take out feet, you take out arms, when properly deployed, because nothing is ever 100%. So we
Well,
never.
it shocks a lot less than the.
There's no shock. There's no shock. It's just.
Well, the shock of
it
getting
wraps
right,
up,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So the noise, it's propelled by a 380
Swaddling a baby.
slug, just to get that propulsion out there.
Like a cocoon or what?
And then it's very small. And had my arm been okay, they kind
You
of
guys have to
enticed me because I wanted to go there. They said it's almost like lateral raising 220 pounds each side. I was going to go get wrapped and then try to pull apart, but I didn't want to pop my elbow again. So
Did you have it done to you?
Oh yeah, we had it wrapped.
It
Yeah.
wasn't painful?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yes.
There's video. If you go onto like YouTube and just like Bull Wrap, BOLA Wrap, WRAP, you can see the device in action. And like I said, it's just another tool that the police officers can utilize for a less lethal force option.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
The things I learned.
Education. Thank you, Chief.
All right.
That concludes it?
that's all I'm listening to.
But what about this complaint? We got a letter about Angelo Drive. Was it music up there? It was also using the common area that they're not supposed to use. You saw the letter from? No. Yeah. Okay, I'll text it to you, Kevin. Just
Yeah, I haven't read
reinforce
anything.
it.
I never
Kevin,
heard about it.
Yeah.
No one ever contacted me.
All right. You know the McGinnis is up there. Maybe go see her. Lorraine.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the residents are using the common or an area they're not supposed to. I guess approaching. So maybe check that out. Please. Okay, authorize the Mayor Brescitt to enter into an intermunicipal agreement between the County of Orange and the Village of Montgomery, hereafter referred to as the vendor through the Office of the Aging. It's negotiated by Wall, I believe, right, for the operation of the senior dining program, and accepts compensation not to exceed $26,877 effective January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, early voting for primary election is being held at the rec center rather than here because there's a wedding on Sunday, I guess. And that's at 60 Bachelor Street from Saturday, June 12th through Sunday, June 20th. Okay, we don't need a motion on that, do we? It's been set up already? Just make sure that's advertised and code red is put out.
Okay.
And remind me about the code red I need to put out too. Okay.
Running's on Sunday, on Saturday, not Sunday.
Okay. Summer Recreation Day camp begins June 28th through August 6th. That's good. Joanne informs me that the storage facility will be delivered on Thursday. The pickleball courts are coming along well. I know Walt and John Tracy are involved. We're just waiting on the green perimeter trim to come in. I guess the blue trim is.
I talked to Mike today, and he said it should be within the next week or so.
Good. I talked to him too, and it's going to look like Crawford's only with a green perimeter, which is going to be a little bit better. I think it'll seal it up nice. Good work on that, and you're working on the nets also, the permanent
Right.
nets,
We're going to talk to John Tracy. We're going to get together, and also Mike has some prices on fencing when we get to that point.
And let's try to do a little grand opening of ribbon cutting if we can too.
Okay.
All right?
Probably be mid-July.
Mid-July? Not before that? Yeah?
He said because again, the base coat has to go down.
Oh, it has to stay
That
for about
second coat,
2 or 3 weeks too,
and
right?
It takes like 3 more coats to finish it
Okay.
up. So we thought by early July. we should-
Okay, that would be good. Early July's not so bad. Okay. All right, anything else before we go?
Yep, 16 new people were welcomed into the village the other day. 4 were not home. We questioned the ones who we did talk to. They moved to this village because, again, like I mentioned before, they do their homework. They know the crime is very low here. They know the schools are great, and this place is very well sought after. So, like I said before, we got a good thing going here. They got a lot of information from restaurants, from businesses. They were happy about it. They were very pleased. We have 9 more on deck, but we haven't even got the deeds from. That was 9 more. So by the time we go out again, maybe in another 2 months, nothing in 2 months, we're going to be looking at 15, 16. The most we've done is 26 at one time, and that was really something. We thought we were going to have to slow it down the other day because it looked like it was going to rain, but we didn't. So, I mean, they're coming in. As soon as these houses are on the market, they're gone. The house across the street from me, not like that.
3 houses are on Mason Road.
Yeah, yeah. We, my neighbor across the street, they moved in 2 months ago. We haven't got the deed yet. So when we get the deed, then we want to go to them. Everybody is happy. I mean, right? We're all together.
We are safe here.
Yeah, Tracy's and Tangretti's and Tracy's, and then I guess Liz's house, right? Too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Liz's house. Yeah.
And,
We probably should have an executive on that. Irie, we should talk about that. Okay,
and then the flags. Did you see what the American Legion did over there?
Yeah, that was absolutely
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm going to try to get a donation from Medline or somebody. If we can try to get bigger banners. If we can't, we can't. But because they are just kind of small. But they did such a beautiful job. And
It's great.
the ladies
Fort
are.
Davis is the same size.
I see a lot. I mean, I've seen the Stony Point, Supper, and Hopewell Junction. Because I'm all over the place, and most of them are bigger. It's just, they're beautiful. It's just tough to read, you know.
I was looking
But
at
Carrie, the guy sold Joanne and Carrie on those, and they are small, but they're beautiful.
Yeah.
If we can get bigger ones and we get it paid for, we'll try to do it. If we can't,
The American Legion with the 7 or 8 flags they put right there. We put, Sue and I put over 100 signs, 100 flags in both stop signs. The little signs just take a flag. We came down here 2 hours, did the parade and all that. We went back to the 6 left. As we were taking them down, the 6 went real quick. Can I go look? Can I go look?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And how many did you hand it out to?
May as well leave them out there.
A wagon place.
Yeah, a couple hundred.
No, it's my grandchildren.
everything's coming nice. All right, I'll entertain a motion to go in executive under section F of the open meetings law with the village board, the chief and the deputy chief. To discuss personnel. Or possible hiring.
You're gonna have to share with Walt.
Thank you, everybody. Oh.
Thank you.
Bye, Tom.
You forgot that public portion again.
Oh, you have anything to say?
I was,
No, I didn't mean to lose your audience. All right, we'll hold off with voting on that until, Don, go ahead, public portion. I'm
I
sorry.
was just, I know, Joanne, you probably read a lot about it this past weekend, about those explosions.
Yeah.
West Point.
No, here.
Oh, here?
What was it, Sunday or Monday? There was a lot.
There was a lot.
There was a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering where they were coming from.
I kept saying the same thing. I said, why do they keep firing them guns?
Yeah.
I heard the town maybe over Kaisertown Road, maybe. That's what I heard last year.
Well, the only thing I could come up with is maybe Aidenbrook Farm.
Yeah, I thought they came from over that
Yeah.
area. I lived
But-
there, and
but
I
if-
kept thinking of that.
When you're
way.
seen on next door, people throughout the village, even on this side of the village,
Yeah, everybody was talking about it.
and they were loud. And they were like they were shaking the
I
ground.
didn't hear it. But
No, there were a lot of them.
West Point, there was something at West Point that in the inclement weather, it's worse.
Oh yeah.
Some explosions that they had there. But it could have been, I heard it was out in the town in Kaisertown last year.
Oh.
Somebody had one of those legal, did you hear about that with the loud noise in the village? Not the West Point, but, like a cannon kind of sound?
Oh, it's the artillery from this weekend.
No, that, but I mean also, last year we had it, it was coming from the town. Over this way.
The booms, I think.
Yeah.
And somebody was detonating tannerite.
Tannerite, right? That's what I thought it was. Yeah.
Which is legal, right?
It's legal. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the town addressed that last
But
year.
it's legal for farmers, for farming. I don't think it's legal to just explode it.
Right, I'm sure
Right.
they're going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Steve Ragney talked to the individual last year. I don't know if he has or not this year. Maybe. I think he's away.
Because it's sort of from the same era.
Yeah, it's probably 4th of July, not 4th of July, Memorial Day.
There's only one other thing, and I just bring this up because I know the village tries hard with this welcome thing. But have you guys ever sat around and discussed why are people moving out of the village? Because that's the only way people are moving in.
We ask them why they're moving out. It's because of New York State, not the village. They're moving out because of New York State.
You go individually to each house and ask them why they're moving out?
When they leave, I ask people. I do ask people. I know enough people around here to find out that's why they're leaving. Not because of the village of Montgomery, like I mentioned before. They're moving out of here because they can't stand New York State. They wish that they could take the village with them. So that's why.
Affordability,
Here
I
on
mean,
the corner said
the merchants might have been.
No, listen, I know it's.
The merchants might have been an
New York State.
exception to that, but that's the general rule.
Yeah.
I mean, who can afford to live here anymore? My taxes are going to 15,000 now
Bob
on my
gave me a
duplex.
perfect example. Bob
Yeah.
left and he said, I wish I could take the village with me. But he can't deal with the taxes, so that's why. I almost left because of
Yeah,
it.
I mean, the quality of life here is better than most, but you're seeing sit for sale signs all over the place.
All over.
I mean, that's why we're losing a congressman or two, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? Which I don't think is necessarily a bad
The rest of the country agrees. They can do less damage. All right.
And I think a lot of